Now let's have a look at the camera at the Samsung Nexus S smartphone. Before we go into the actual application and the review of it, I'd like to show you an image of my setup so you can see how I mount the camera in order to film these mobile phones that I review. So as you can see, the phone is lying on a flat surface. What this means is that you'll only see a black image because I did not drill a hole or anything in this piece of wood that I use for the foundation for my fancy little setup here with my video camera. I hope you can live with that. I've selected to have an image that is stable and where I can show all the small things instead of having some kind of handheld version of a review. I cannot hold the video camera anyway when I'm using this phone. So the camera is in here, the menu, camera, and as you can see it's very black. Sorry about that. Now the camera is pretty simple to use, but it does have some small things here and there that are strange. Let me give you a quick overview of what it can do. Down here you'll have check an image. You will be able to switch between video and normal camera. Of course you can't see any difference here really. And you can go into your gallery. As you can see here, the last image here is really black. That's fairly simple. Down here I have a number of icons. Now some of these icons are fairly simple to understand. That is two of them. The first one is this flash, because it has an icon that is consistent with flash icons in other phones and in other cameras, such as my Canon camera. Over here I have settings. This might not be consistent with the settings icons in other phones, but it's consistent with the settings icon here. Even though it's of course a smaller version of it. But then there are these three icons that are more difficult to understand. So in my normal camera, this icon means something along the lines of set the focus to infinity, because you're about to take a picture of a mountain. But here it means that I can switch between the camera on the front of the phone, which is up here somewhere, or the camera in the back of the phone. I'm pretty sure that it will be possible to make a better icon to identify the functionality of switching between the front and the back camera. Now the flash I already commented on. Over here is white balance. And fair enough, white balance is something that's difficult to grasp for anybody that would prefer that the camera just takes care of everything. So here, white balance, well, you cannot see the differences here when I change them. And sorry about that. But they're pretty easy to understand once you understand that it's white balance in here. I'm not sure what the right icon for white balance would be. Again, this is just an icon that doesn't tell me straight away what it's doing, but it might be that this concept of white balance is simply too difficult to put into one icon, and therefore I'm not gonna trash Samsung for using it. We had settings over here as I talked about, and then we have something here that looks like I don't know. Normally when I review a phone I do take some guesses about what this could be. Instead of just pressing it and see what it is and learning it straight away, I had 3 guesses about what this could be, and none of them were right, because this is something related to the location. If you wish to store the location that the picture was taken at, so let's say I go to New York, I take a picture there, but when I come home I'm not quite sure where I took it, therefore I can just check out the location and then I'll learn that, well, I took the picture in New York. So sadly that's 3 out of 5 icons that doesn't seem intuitive to me. Also, I'm not sure if this store location icon here is very important for me. But I guess that Samsung has some usability tests, and if they don't, at least it doesn't take up too much space. Now let me show you something clever in settings. Actually, settings is a very long list of stuff. And that is fairly clever. Because in other phones you might have a list, and then when you press something you'll have another list coming out. But some of these settings will change what you see in the viewfinder straight away. Of course, again, it's black right now, but well, it will change. So if I change it to infinity, I'll be able to see that the focus changes. I must admit that I don't know what a macro is. Well, I do know what a macro is in Excel or other programs. I'm not quite sure what a macro means here. It could be a portrait macro, anything. I don't know, so I'm probably not going to use it. So here is exposure. As far as I understand, you can add or subtract half a second or similar to the exposure time, which why I would prefer to just be exposure time. Scene mode is very nice actually, because it doesn't use some fancy words. It uses simple words that you can understand, such as this is night, I am at a beach, there's snow everywhere. I'm gonna photograph fireworks. Pretty simple to understand. So here is picture size and picture quality. I'm not too much into photography, so I'm not quite sure what the difference is between having a lot of pixels and having a super fine quality. But since this phone has storage for quite a lot of pictures, I'll just set both of them to 5 and super fine, yeah sure. Also because I know that if I have a super fine picture or an image that's too large and I wish to send it, it'll just be resized. I have some color effects, and here is where you can see a great example of instant change of the screen. Obviously the negative is pretty brutal for the eyes right now. And then I can restore the defaults. So overall this application is fairly simple to use, but there are 2 problems that I haven't highlighted simply because it's functionality that I would expect to be in a camera, in a phone in this price range and with a 5 megapixel camera. So one of them is that I cannot zoom. There's no zoom anywhere in this phone, so I have to move closer to the object or go away from the object if I don't like the size of it in my viewfinder. I would expect that on a phone in this price range. And the second thing might actually seem to be fairly stupid, but it's not. If I go into settings, I don't have any options of switching off the camera sound. Obviously, sometimes you want to be sure that it's not possible to take a candid photograph. Let's say you're in high school, similar, and you want to be sure that nobody goes into the shower and takes a candid picture of somebody that doesn't want to be naked all over the internet. So if that's the idea of having a camera sound always on, that's fair enough and that's kind of noble. But it's actually very annoying if you wish to take a picture, let's say, of somebody that's sleeping. As I said in some of the other reviews, I have a son that's 5 months old, and of course I want to take pictures of him in every situation, and in some of the situations he's asleep, only I wake him up every time I take a picture. So why is it that I cannot simply remove the shutter sound here, which is actually fairly aggressive and fairly loud? So in order to switch off the camera sound, I'll have to switch off the sound of my phone completely, which doesn't really make sense. So please, for the next version of this camera, put in the shutter sound and the options for taking it away. Otherwise, it's an overall easy camera to use. Some of the advanced functionality here is difficult to understand, but they don't get too much in the way of the view that you see here just before you take your photo.